Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so excited to talk about your book.
Oh, it's going to be so awesome. I'm so happy that you asked to do this.
Of course. I read it and I was obsessed with it the entire time. I was like, what happened to them? Is this an apocalypse? Did they die? Did like everyone else get evacuated? And I love how you kept it mysterious until the very end. Did you like have an idea of what happened to them, or did you know that they just woke up in just like an empty world, or did you have an idea of like if it was an apocalypse?
Yeah, so I definitely didn't know at the very beginning. So the very first piece of this book that ever came to me was like this image of a girl walking barefoot down like a 12-lane highway, and there were no cars on it and there were no people in sight. So I knew that I wanted to kind of like explore the idea of that, of a girl being completely alone in her city. And then I did have to figure out why, but I definitely had all of that locked in before I even started writing. I just had a few days of daydreaming and creative napping and kind of figuring out what exactly was going on. And then when I went into it, I kind of knew how it would end, and I knew where I needed to get to.
I do think like because this book does have incredible timing, because the whole like with the pandemic, everyone's kind of alone and secluded at home. And so even though of course it's not like you're waking up in an empty world, it kind of helps you relate to the character, to Leo and Hannah, because they are alone in like, so it kind of helps you have like the relatability. Did you try to do that, or was that intentional?
So the publishing world is extremely slow. And I started writing the book maybe 5 years ago. It was sold before, the very first hint of COVID. I think it sold 3 months before it came to the States. So like everything was locked in. And I was kind of, when I wrote it, I wanted to give people this whole experience where they could like be out of the hustle and bustle of like what life really used to be like. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, oh no, it's like my book. Everyone is just experiencing this anyway. And at first I was really worried that would hurt it, but I don't think it has. I think in some ways it may have helped people kind of get into it more. I think before all of that happened to them, I don't know if they would have been like, oh, this is not how people would react to being, alone. But then after they were like, oh, there's lots of different ways to react to being alone. So
because like of course it's not like it's not like you're waking up to an apocalypse. Like in our world, it's not like you're waking up to an apocalypse and no one's there, but you are waking up and it's kind of like you look at your window and you don't like see, like the street isn't like bustling like it would have been before COVID. So I was reading it and I read it recently, and so I was kind of relating to it, and I was like, yeah, she's kind of like out and it's like a ghost town. And that's kind of the same way with like COVID is like you go out and people are kind of at their home. So there's just like really no one outside. I love reading books with multiple POVs. I love being able to see the world from different people's perspectives and getting to learn how they see it and like what they're going through in the same event. Did you always have it as like two POVs? Was it always Hannah's POV and Leo's?
The very first draft was just Hannah, and I had a very good critique partner who was like, I think maybe you should add like Leo. At first I was like, that's crazy, that's such a huge amount of work that I would have to put in. But actually once I got started, his chapters were easier to write than Hannah's. I don't know why that is. I still don't really know why that was, but adding him was definitely the right choice, and I really enjoyed the way that they both kind of come together and you get to see both sides. And my next novel has dual point of view too. So
okay, so about your book, I saw that you have it coming out next year. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
It's coming out in March, and it's called The Half-Life of Love, and it is about a boy named Flint who has exactly 41 days, 9 hours, and 42 minutes left to live when the book starts, and he knows that because everyone in this like alternate version of now, they have like a little painful twinge when they're exactly halfway through their life. So once they get that, they know like that they're going to die in X many years. So Flint half-lifed when he was 8, and he knows that he's going to die when he's 16. So with 41 days left on the clock, he moves back to his hometown, and he's planning to just kind of wait it out and be miserable like he has been for the past 8 years. And then he meets this girl named September who works at the Half-Life Institute. So she's a bit of a science genius girl, and she's desperate to find a cure, but they're so far off. And when she meets him, they kind of become friends, and then like a little bit more, but he hasn't told her that he's about to die, and she's got some secrets as well.
Ooh.
So it's all gonna be quite juicy and angsty.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to read that.
I'm really excited to have it out. It's been finished for about 6 months, I think, and I just have to wait until publication day. I just really want to share it with everyone.
We did ask some of our book club readers some questions, and we got some really good ones. So one of the questions we got was, what was your inspiration for the book?
I always wanted to write a book where the two main characters just get to be alone. That was like my dream. I just wanted to have them be together 24/7, like, because when you're falling in love for the first time, it often has to fit around everything else in your life, school and parents and all these other expectations. So I just wanted to stick two people together in a situation. I didn't know yet what the situation was. Two people that are so different, who would, if they saw each other, in the school hallway, they would not talk to each other. They would be like, oh, well, that's a certain type of girl that wouldn't like me, or, they just wouldn't really approach each other. But because they're stuck together, they really get to know each other and themselves on like a deeper level that is away from all of that.
In the book, I feel like the reason that they kind of like flourish almost, since they're on their own, is because they don't have like the looming expectation of everyone that's around them. So they kind of like, they come into themselves and they become like more free and like happier and just like more free will, like how they just like fly down the highway and stuff. I like that, like they kind of are able to be themselves without like the expectation, like for Leo with his band and for like Hannah with ballet. Like they don't have to worry about those expectations, and so they just kind of get to be themselves. How did you get inspired to start writing? How do you start, and what do you do if you get writer's block?
I've kind of always written little pieces of things ever since I was maybe, like 10 or 11. But I didn't really like sit down and seriously write anything until maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I didn't start with this story. I had some other like little projects that I did before this one. And this one was definitely like just a story that I had that I felt like I needed to get out. And I sat down and I was like, Self, you're just going to do this and you're going to finish this novel and we'll just see what happens. And it does take so much like self-control and stuff to not go off and, watch television or be on your social media and stuff. And sometimes I do have to set a timer for myself. And I do this when I have writer's block and stuff. If I am just feel like I'm really avoiding my writing and I'm like, oh, well, I can do that tomorrow and I'll go do this now. And then I have to say to myself, right, you're going to sit here with a pen and paper for 1 hour. And if nothing comes out, nothing comes out. But usually once I've set the timer and I'm here and I know I can't go anywhere, I like trap myself. Then usually stuff starts coming in 5 or 10 minutes. And sometimes it's not great, but you have to kind of get through the not great to get into the zone, I think.
What made you become an author, and who or what inspired you?
All of the authors that have come before me and all of the books that I read when I was growing up, and all of those experiences that like they writers give that to people with a book. And I just found that so magical, and I wanted to do that for other people as well. So definitely just things that I read and just loving reading. I actually worked for many years in stage management for ballet, which is why Hannah's a ballerina. I was on tour for 35 weeks out of the year, and I didn't really have much time to write outside of that. But then I just kept feeling like that was more what I was meant to do, and it had always been what I've dreamed of as a kid, to be an author. That was when I kind of set myself down and I was like, you need to try to make it happen now or it's not going to happen. So very happy that it did, and really lucky.
That's really cool. I love that you incorporated like you being in like ballet as a stage manager and how you put that in with Hannah. I love that. That's really cool. Did you base Hannah and Leo off of people like that and like in your life, or are they like entirely made up?
They're pretty much entirely made up. I think there's some of my personality traits in Hannah. I'm very like much a people pleaser and cautious about stuff as she is. They started out as these kind of cardboard cutouts of, tropes, like, which I think every character kind of does. You decide like kind of what archetype they begin from. And then as you write, like they get deeper and more nuanced and stuff. So they really grew more into themselves. They were very two-dimensional at first, but then they they grew more into themselves as I spent more time with them.
I love it whenever I talk to someone and they like have like their friends or like their like own little like traits and quirks and characters they've written, and it's really cool to see how they take, like, an author would take stuff from their life and put little like hints of it in their character's life, which I think that's really cool. So you mentioned earlier that you like have always loved to read. What is your favorite genre to read?
Oh my gosh.
It's hard.
I don't know. I really swap around, like, depending on my mood. Like, in the past few years, I've been reading a lot more YA, just so I could kind of keep up with the market and stuff. But I mean, I'll read like anything. I really like the J.D. Robb series. There's like 60 or something of them now, and those are like kind of murder mystery things. And then I love Naomi Novik, and those are very like luscious, like Eastern European folktale kind of things.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it just kind of depends. I kind of grab from everywhere depending on what I'm feeling.
Yeah, it's just like I have favorite genres, but I will really read anything. Well, thank you so much. I had so much fun learning about your book. It was so cool. And I did have one more question, because so you have your new book coming out. Would we expect any more apocalypse books?
I don't have any on my like list of upcoming ideas, I don't think. There is one that might have like a super big like conspiracy, but not apocalypse, I don't think.
Well, I can't wait to see what you come out with next. I'm definitely going to get your new book in March. And thank you so much for talking with me. I had so much fun learning about your book, You and Me at the End of the World. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Reagan. It was so cool to hear that you read it and then wanted to do this. And like, I love your book club stuff that you're doing with that. So it's all been really fabulous.
Thank you. I sped through your book, and I can't wait for more.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to watch more Read with Reagan book stuff.